Welcome to Roots of Faith Ancestry. I'm Renee Richard, and I have with me Judy Riffle and Leonard Smith III. And together we will be hosting a new series of Roots of Faith Ancestry, where we will teach basic genealogy skills and how to trace your ancestors. The Roots of Faith show started back in 2001, and the history of it goes back to the history of this TV station. The diocese bought a TV station, and at a department head meeting, then Bishop Hughes asked for programming or shows if any of us had ideas. And being the archivist, we have all of the church's records which tell the history of the people and the history of the church and the settlement of the church here in South Louisiana. And so I mentioned to one of the Chancery staff that archives could do a show because we have all this great history material. And literally, like the next day, I had a phone call from Bishop Hughes saying, "Renee, you have an idea for a show?" And the rest is history. So it started out with me as host. It was in a studio. And what I got my researcher at the time, Emily Loomis, and what we did is we showcased the history of our diocese, how it came about, the formation of the earliest parishes, on through the line, and we pretty much stayed with historical churches. When that series ended, we did 12, 14, I can't even tell you how many shows. Lee had an idea about doing some on-site and visiting the churches. So what we did is she became host, and we did a whole nother series with a different direction on the architecture, the cemeteries, the foundation, how these churches were built, where they were built, how many churches were built in each area. Then, as things settled, we did many shows of that. Lee left to go work for the Archdiocese of New Orleans as archivist, and they hired a new archivist, Lisa Lewis. Lisa had an idea for the shows. She wanted to do a series of shows on the spiritual community that was in each parish. So Lisa did a series of shows, as well as some shows on some of the other communities like Carville and Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. So being I am still a volunteer in the Department of Archives, and we do so much genealogy in the department, and we're seeing more and more of a need for this type of show. We get requests for records for people doing their genealogy, and there's such an interest in it. Genealogy is such a big hobby now. So that's where we came about, and we've put together a great series, a great panel of experts here to do this series. And so in light of that, we'll get started, and let me introduce our panel to you. Judy Riffle. She's a native of Baton Rouge. Judy went to LSU and has an MBA from there. She is a professional genealogist with over 35 years experience in the field. She teaches workshops, she edits and writes articles, and we will get into some of your books. When I tell you, she writes, I'm talking about it's numerous, like 22, but you'll know more about that. Judy's gonna be our expert record researcher because she likes records for this show. And just to tell a little story, my husband and I are big fans of several TV shows, but one in particular is The Big Bang Theory with Jim Parsons, and we love Who Do You Think You Are? And so lo and behold, I think it was last year, was it last year's series? Anyway, we see that Jim Parsons is going to be on Who Do You Think We Are? Well, we watched it anyway, but it was like the last one to come up, and we're sitting there watching the show, and I'll be darned if I don't see Judy on the show with him, not once, but twice. And I was like, gosh, I've talked to her all year. She never told me this. And so it was a well-kept secret, Judy.
It was a very well-kept secret, and I was very fortunate to be asked to appear on camera on the show. But most of my experience for that, not just that show, but with other television shows, has been doing the behind-the-scenes research where I'm a lot more comfortable.
Wait, you just said other TV shows, so what do I not know about? What other secrets are out there?
Well, a few I can't tell, but I have done research for Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates. It's a series on LPB, and I've also done some research for some documentary shows.
Okay, wow.
But as you said, my expertise is Louisiana records, and what I hope to bring to the show is how to find those records, how to use those records, how to interpret them and glean details from them, because genealogy is not just about typing your name in a search field in a database online and going through the results. There are records behind those things that you get online, and you have to finish your genealogy, you have to look at those records to see what they say, not just what they give you online.
Right, to be accurate.
To be accurate,
You got it. And so now let me introduce my other co-host here, Leonard Smith III. Leonard is a native of New Orleans until Katrina, and then he's now in the Lafayette area. But you're a retired engineer who has turned your skills into a very, very award-winning multimedia business, as well as genealogy business as well. And so you're a professional genealogist, and again, you've got years. I think between us we have 100 years or more. I hate to say that. We're giving away some ages here. But you have also, your expertise is going to be technology, our technology expert here on the show. And anyway, you also have won some major awards out there, and you can showcase them. I think it's 2 AVA awards, 4 Telly Awards, and a Hermes Award. Oh, I got it right. Okay, and I'll let you tell us a little bit more.
Hello, everyone, and I'm Leonard Smith III, as Renee said, and actually I'm the technologist. There's a new term that everyone uses now, so I'm the technologist for the group. And I actually am a retired senior field engineer, so I like to put the senior in there since I earned it. But I've actually done research in my family tree for quite some time. And what I've actually have learned to do is actually take my background, my engineering background, and apply it to genealogy. So I do a lot of reverse engineering. I did a lot of database management, and so I'm able to apply those skills to my research that makes things a little easier to actually backtrack into my family history as genealogists do. And so I have started a company, LS3 Studios. We are a multimedia award-winning documentary. We do documentaries for organizations as well as individuals. And we like to tell your story. So that's the purpose of LS3 Studios. And we like to educate, entertain, and inspire you. That's our mission at LS3 Studios. Also, I have done a lot of my own personal family research, been at this quite some time. And so what I also have is a website for anyone else who wants to kind of follow my track, and that's genealogystorytelling.com.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. Judy, you also have a website.
Yes,
do you not?
have a website for my professional genealogy. It's judyriffle.com, so
Okay,
people
very
can
good.
find me there.
And you don't have to worry about folks about writing that down or remembering it, because at the end of the show, it will be listed in the credits following the show for their websites. A little bit about me. I do not have a website. I am the former archivist for the Diocese of Baton Rouge, and like Leonard and Judy, have been doing genealogy for over 30 years. I'm a registered nurse by profession, by schooling, and worked my whole career in the maternal child area, 23 years at Women's Hospital. So my kids like to put it, when somebody asks my kids what I do, I like them either in the oven, meaning in the womb, or in the grave, and nowhere in between. And that kind of sums up how I look at it too, I guess, in a way, not quite like that. So now you've kind of met what we have to bring to the table. My specialty is I like courthouse research. I like to look up the land and let the land tell the story of the people. You have to do the genealogy to do that. So when it comes to land records, I'm an expert on that, but I don't know how much that will bring to the table here. But we'll be talking about land records too a little bit. But basic genealogy, we're gonna take a break. We'll come back. We'll learn a little bit more about us.
If you're discerning a call to the priesthood, contact the Office of Vocations. Hello everyone, I'm Shannon Acord and this is Colette Keith, and we're talking about Veritas Vitae, a brand new show that's going to talk about the sacredness of God's gift of life from conception to natural death and every stage in between.
We'll be discussing human trafficking to abortion to hunger. So tune in every week to see these episodes and learn how we're all connected by these issues and learn about the power of God's truth.
Welcome back to Roots of Faith Ancestry. I'm Renee Richard with Judy Riffle and Leonard Smith III, and we're going to talk a little bit right now about what triggered our interest in genealogy. For myself, it was when I got married 35 years ago, but my husband's aunt gave me his genealogy as our wedding present, and I was fascinated over the fact that she had what ships his ancestors, both the Acadian ones and then his Canary Island ancestors were on, and I went over to my grandfather's with it, and I was in awe looking at it, and my grandfather said, well, baby girl, we got that, and he went and pulled out of the file cabinet 13 pages at that time of, we'll get into the papers, but family group sheets, and lo and behold, not only were my ancestors, I was the same as him, Canary Island and Acadian, but they were on the same ships, both sets, and so that was it. I was hooked. After that, I wanted to learn everything and anything I could. So that's what sparked my interest. And so Judy, what triggered yours?
Well, my spark happened in February of 1976. It was during the bicentennial year, and there was a series of articles in the Sunday paper called Louisiana Bicentennial Almanac. And it was a summary of things that had happened in Louisiana history 200 years ago that week. And my mother read the article, and she said, she came to me and she said, well, my family name appeared in there, Balthazar de Villiers. And my grandfather's name was Balthazar de Villiers. He was doing something in colonial Louisiana. And I knew that that was not her grandfather because he wasn't that old, but we wanted to find out just how we were related to him, if we were related to him. So we went to the library sometime after that, and we found some books, and somebody helped us, and we were able to trace our line directly back to him, and from there we were hooked. So
Okay.
just like you, there was no going back.
That's it. So what did you find? When you started doing the rest of your family, what did you...
Well, eventually I got to research my father's family. He is German and not from Louisiana. He's from Kansas, but my mother's family is primarily French and Acadian, and some of her ancestors have been in Louisiana since they practically opened the door. And in fact, all of her ancestors had come to Louisiana prior to 1800, except for one who came in 1848 from France.
Oh, you sound like me.
Yeah.
All of my ancestors came to Louisiana in the colonial period, except one from France in 1860 or so. So Leonard,
Yes.
your turn. Tell us what sparked your interest and what you found when you were digging.
Well, let's see. I started, actually, my professional career, I started at Eastman Kodak working on microfilm equipment in 1975. And I actually worked on the microfilm equipment that the Mormons would actually go around the country filming the old documents. So that kind of piqued my interest. Then, of course, 1976, Rouge came out, the book, and I actually bought the novel, and it was 706 pages or whatever it was, but I read that. And then the miniseries came out in '77. So after that, I decided to go ahead and start interviewing my oldest relative, which was my maternal grandmother, and that's what started my research. And since then, I've actually found so many good information or good stories. I actually have found my enslaved ancestors, a Civil War veteran, a strike leader during the late 1800s, land ownership in 1870. I also found that my third great grandfather was the parish coroner and justice of the peace during Reconstruction.
Oh, wow.
So I've actually found some good stories.
And you've dug locally? What is
The
the
area?
area that you've looked, where
Wow.
you've had to go?
I've actually we cover, I guess, 6 or 7 parishes: Assumption, Ascension, St. James, Lafourche, Iberville, New Orleans, of course, and St. James Parish. So I kind of cover the whole gamut in this area for the most part. And Baton Rouge, let me also say that as well.
In my case, with my ancestors all from Assumption Parish, But that's how I got interested in the land records, is my grandmother asked me to write a book on the history of the land. And in researching, we've owned the land for over 100 years, and in researching the land, I started doing the genealogy of the man that came from Tennessee, you know, an Anglican that came in the antebellum period, born in the 1700s. And so I've used the land to tell his story, and so Assumption Parish is pretty much it, but I have gone all over, in my case, hunting him down. And your area, Judy,
Well,
is...
I have all over South Louisiana practically. I have Iberville, St. Martin, St. Landry, some in Point Capee and West Baton Rouge, Lafourche. So I kind of cover the whole south part of the state.
Which is really interesting because we have some of the same, you and I share a common ancestry, yet nowhere near each other. You know, Lafourche, and then they branch from there, mine to Assumption and yours into the western part of Acadiana. And then you and I, we share a common link of researching in Assumption Courthouse with slave research. So, you know, we have some common links there too. So that gives you some idea of what sparked it, because that's what's going to happen, folks. For those of you who are beginning genealogy, we hope to bring you the tools you need to start the process and to learn. For those of you who are medium in it, you know, consider yourself intermediately skilled, hopefully you will watch it and you'll glean something and learn new stuff. And for those of you who are experts, please don't turn the TV off, because I guarantee you will learn something. When we were preparing for this show, Judy made a comment about vital records, and Leonard and I both went, I didn't know that. So there's something for everybody, and after the break, we'll be back. Thank you.
Join Catholic Life Television when we open up the Catholic Life Vault and re-air some of the special events that happened in our diocese. Watch as we share the journey of the many faith-filled people who make up the heart of this diocese.
Catholic Life Television announces the launch of its new website. CatholicLifeTV.org now features easier browsing, our TV schedule, and online viewing of full episodes of locally produced programs from Catholic Life TV. CatholicLifeTV.org allows you to watch live broadcasts, plus Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday Masses too. Like us on Facebook and see behind-the-scenes info and pictures. Visit CatholicLifeTV.org.
If you were born after 1973, up to 30% of your friends, neighbors, and relatives are missing. Since the Supreme Court approved legal abortions, nearly 1 of every 3 babies was aborted. That means over 50 million U.S. children, teens, and young adults are missing. While we know how all of them disappeared, we will never know what they had to offer. Life. See what we've been missing.
Welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit about exactly what genealogy is. It's the study of one's family. It's the process that's done to collect information from ancestors or from records, and then take that information through various records and analyze it, take that data and put it into a form or a chart that will express the kinship, how you evolved from other people. And we always work backwards, so we'll start with us. The results are then displayed sometimes in narrative form, sometimes on charts that can be seen to show who you are and where you come from. So keep in mind that over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about a lot of different records that will give you the information you're looking for about your history, and that those records at the time that they were created were not intended for genealogists. And we're going to reiterate this in every show. You know, genealogists love to go in there thinking they have access, this is mine, this is mine. It's not. It's a record that was generated for a purpose, whether governmental, church, whatever, and it's their record. We just want it. We want that information that's on it because it tells our story. And so we're going to explain all the different types of records and where to find them. Genealogy is something, though, that is not fast. Your TV shows that are out there often portray it as being very easy and quick and relatively quick. But it can take years, it can take months. It's something you put down and pick back up unless you get obsessed by it like we do and never stop. But most people don't do that. It's something that you will work on the rest of your life. You will never get to the end of it because there's always another generation to find. And it is very tedious. So it may not be for everybody, but yet there's that inside desire to know, why do I do the things I do? Why am I the way I am? Were my ancestors in this church? So those are the kind of things that by doing it, you will be able to answer for yourself. And it teaches us where we come from. It teaches us where we're going. It allows us to share with others what we find in hopes that they share their findings with you. So it's something that really should be collaborative. And it's through genealogy that we preserve the past, because we've done the work. We want to save that for the future generations coming up. Perhaps they'll have less work to do. And we're going to teach you how to do it, but we're going to teach you how to do it properly and how to document, and so that anybody coming up will know you did it right, hopefully, from what you've learned with us. It's a big, big hobby. It's a multi-million-dollar business. Who knows how much? And look at the TV shows, what they're spending to get that out to us, But, and also, the largest genealogy library in the entire United States is located here in the United States. And it's in Utah, and it is through the Mormon Church. And let's see, I can give you some statistics on it. Their staff can assist in 30 different languages. That's amazing right there. They have records from 110 countries. They have over 350,000 books and nearly 2.5 million reels of microfilm. And these are only through the end of 2012. So I'm sure they've gained a lot more since that point in time, at their library. And Judy, you've visited there, haven't you?
Yes, I've been to the Family History Library in Salt Lake City 5 times, but not in the last several years, and that's mainly because they're putting more and more of their records, or the records they have microfilmed in different places all over the world, they're putting those images and databases on their website online, so there's not as much need to go to the library in Salt Lake City to access those records. You can go on their website, which is familysearch.org, and you can look at those records online. Some of the records are indexed, where you type in a name and it'll search for you. Other records that they're putting online are the images, and they're not yet indexed, but you can still browse through those records online, and best of all, it's free.
It is. And you don't have to worry about having written that down. Anything we talk about on the show, if we give a website, it'll be posted at the end of the show for you. So in the case of like familysearch.org, which is their official site, when Judy talked about the browse, if you put your name in and you don't get a hit on it, if you're doing internet genealogy, be sure to look under United States at the bottom, and then or browse, and you'll hit United States, and then it'll allow you to look at Louisiana or any state you want to look at. But like she said, there's where the time consuming comes in, because it's not indexed, and so you literally have to go through page and page, and some of us like doing that. So that's what we like to do. Then you have a few more facts on how popular it is, right?
Oh yes, the genealogy industry will grow by 36% by the year 2020. $2.3 billion was spent on genealogy alone in 2012. Yeah.
All those TV shows to get it out there to us.
And, at least 10,000 Ancestry DNA tests have been administered every month on Ancestry, but there's also 23andMe and Family Tree DNA, so we don't know what their numbers are. So if you add all that up together, then that's a lot of research, a lot of DNA research.
Right, and people may say, what does DNA have to do with genealogy? And we're not going to get into the TV show as to any of that, but just to give you an example, with me doing land research on our farm, the man that came's name was Beasley. And he came from somewhere in North Carolina, Tennessee. He was born in 1785. There are so many Beasley descendants out there, and the record's just dead end for everybody. And so what they've done now is they're requesting people of Beasley ancestry to get DNA tested. And what it has done is it has actually narrowed down that there were 3 Beasleys, original Beasleys, back in the 1600s, early 1700s, and that pretty much everybody comes off of these branches. So what it's done now is it's taken down the brick walls that we all will hit in time when there's no more records. So in doing that, that's just an example of when he's talking, he's our technical guy, when he's talking about DNA, and I have done my DNA for genealogy purposes, and my husband's done his, and it does give you a whole clue into what my makeup was really not at all what I thought. 99.9% Northern European. It's like, where's those Canary Islanders? Yeah. But anyhow, just to give you a little bit about that. But that's where the genealogy plays into that in breaking down brick walls. So, you know, it is anonymous, and it's not something somebody's going to go out there and they know all about you. DNA doesn't work that way.
That's right.
But just to add to that, that's how it's being used nowadays in genealogy. And in our archives, I know that was part of the premise for starting this show, is we're getting more and more requests, you know, for genealogy records, or I should say church records for people to trace their genealogy. And so there was a real need for this to be done. And what we want to reiterate is over the course of the next few weeks, hopefully 10, 12, we're adding shows, and we will continue. If you have questions out there or we're not clear on something and you have a question about it, you can contact us. And again, this will be at the end of the show, but it's archives@diobr.org. So that's archives@dioceseofbatonrouge.org. And so what we'll do is if we get enough interest in an area that we haven't covered or that we haven't, you know, a lot of questions about some topic, and we can come up with a show on it, we can do a show on that topic. So as we go along over the initial first 10 weeks or so, give us feedback, let us know, and perhaps we can answer your questions through
We can't
the
do
TV show.
your genealogy
We can't do your
for you,
genealogy show.
but we can try to
Right.
point you in the right direction and
Right.
give you some basic pointers on where to go.
That's right.
Or do a whole nother show. If we
Right.
get a lot on a subject that, you know, we haven't covered, or a subject that we covered, but it's hard to give this much information in a 30-minute show each week. So bear with us. We are giving the basics. We're giving you the tools to go out there and start your own. Or like I said, if you're a beginner, and if you're intermediate or expert, hopefully you'll learn something from it, you know. But anyway, the whole sole purpose of this is to give you the basics, and it's going to be difficult in a short amount of time. So anything y'all
Well, I
want to
think
chime
you
in?
want to
for
point in
this?
about Louisiana being different, and we
Oh,
are
we are
going to
different.
concentrate on Louisiana
Yeah.
research and in this area.
Pretty much this area, South Louisiana research. Although, you know, we always work backwards. So those of us here will find that we come from all over.
That's right.
So we can maybe branch out, but we're going to be concentrating the basics on Louisiana. Yes, and we are different from the rest of the nation. We have those good...
In a good way.
Yeah, Spanish and French roots, and our laws come from French and Spanish, correct? So
Yes.
it's a little bit different here, and we're going to explain that as we go. So join us over the next few weeks as we take our little voyage on Roots of Faith Ancestry, and we learn how to trace our ancestors back to the beginning of when we came here in the state of Louisiana.